Hello. I'm trying to get it so that everyone can actually see me here. It's always an adventure when I go live. Um, why is my camera not? Here we go. And my face is like blurred by the light. Let me kind of switch here. I'm like laying in bed and I'm trying to pull myself together here for this live chat here. I wanted to touch base with everyone. It's been a little while since I've done a live telecast, even though I promised everyone that I kind of would be doing webinars every week. At least that was the whole big plan months ago, and I'm like adjusting myself here in bed, so bear with me. I'm trying to get into a position where everyone can actually see me. The light here. There we go. So hi everyone, it's Calvin here with Living with Fibromyalgia, and I wanted to check in with everyone. I've been meaning to get online and do a really great webinar for some time. I know that when I first started doing these kind of live telecasts that I had promised that I would try to get them to you once a month or once a week, every week. That was the plan when I started it. And of course, being a fibromyalgia, life happened and work happens, and it's been probably close to 2 months now since I've done a live video. And I was laying here, it's Saturday. Of course, I live in upstate New York, and it's Saturday, and I was kind of pitching, I'm kind of in a flare. Saturday really has become, especially with school being back in session. For those of you who don't know me, I teach special education at an elementary school here in upstate New York. And school started in September for us. So this is we're into the second month of school, October. And of course, most of us who do work do recognize that usually Monday through Friday is the grind and Saturday is kind of rest and recovery. At least that's how it typically works for me. And I don't feel the worst. I've kind of been, a little bit after school started, I was in a really awful flare up. And between school, my work, my career, and my gluten-free chef blog and all of that, I've just been very busy kind of plotting and planning and doing a whole lot when it comes to the gluten-free chef blog and brand. And I have been remiss in getting a live Living with Fibromyalgia webinar to everyone. So I just wanted to check in. I was kind of mentally, I've been all week, I had planned on doing and promoting a live official webinar yesterday, and I've just been exhausted. A lot going on at work, and it's been a little stressful, a little overwhelming, and I've just felt overwhelmed, and I just didn't have the strength to kind of pull myself together and create a nice presentation for a live webinar. But I just wanted it to be informal and just chat and kind of just check in with all of you and let you know how I've been doing, what I've been doing. And I was laying here taking care of kind of like some internet business and kind of stuff like that. And I just thought, I don't need to be all dolled up or whatever you want to call it, dressed up or put together, as they say. And I'm laying here in bed kind of recuperating and getting my strength for tomorrow and for the week up ahead. And I just said, let me do a check-in video. Let me do a webinar, or not a webinar, but a live stream with all of you. So here I am, and I hope that everyone is having a wonderful Saturday. It's about 40 some, mid 40s here in Rochester. They're calling for one of the coldest nights, kind of starting the fallish winter season is here. And for those of us who live in the northern states and in states where we have winter, you have kind of seasonal weather, we know that this time of year and into winter can be extremely difficult, especially with the weather changing and the barometric pressure changing. And my body is kind of been going through the changes, and I've been actually pretty good physically. I am on several medications that prove pretty effective for allowing me to have somewhat of a quality of life. I would say I'm taking morphine currently, and it's a very low dosage, but it's enough for me to be able to get through the workday. Of course, being an educator, my school starts at about 8:45, and we go until 3:15. So it's not a terribly long day, and it's kind of just the perfect time for me to be able to um, do what I need to do. But today was especially cool, and I wanted to kind of get up and push myself and do some stuff today, but I decided that because I have actually some part-time work to do tomorrow, that I wanted to not overdo it, because I definitely think last Sunday I overdid it and that impacted my week. And of course, that's kind of the ebb and flow of fibromyalgia, trying to figure out what is too much, how far to push yourself, constantly in my head trying to decipher and decide how much is too much, when should I stop. Even on days when I feel better, trying not to overexert myself so that I don't end up burning myself out by the end of the week. So kind of that's just the constant ebb and flow and constant back and forth that happens when you're trying to live and live somewhat well, living with fibromyalgia. And for me, being a blogger and a writer and all of that, of course, um, fibromyalgia, people don't realize that it's everything that we do requires energy. So whether that be reading a book or on the internet or writing an article or writing a blog post, all of that requires mental and emotional energy. And, between fibro fog days, I had not really been feeling getting on camera and doing a live webinar. So I haven't. And I feel really bad because back in the summer when I started the live webinar concept, I was really feeling really wonderful, and that's usually how it goes as creatives. We get these huge bursts of energy, and a burst of creative idea. And I was like, every Friday I'm gonna do a webinar, and it's gonna be on the theme or questions that people send in, or or discussions that I see on the Living with Fibromyalgia Facebook page. And I was really intending to do a webinar live every Friday. And of course, that did not happen. It maybe lasted for 2 Fridays, and then I was into a really huge flare in August. And so here we are in October, and here I am just now kind of connecting with all of you. And I think a more reasonable webinar schedule would be probably twice a month. I kind of want to say the second and fourth Friday of each month will be more feasible, kind of with all I have going on with the Gluten Free Chef blog and Facebook page and all of that. Every other Friday, or the second and fourth Friday, is when my Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast new episodes kind of premiere or come out on SoundCloud every second and fourth Friday. So I think that might be just a better schedule for the Living with Fibromyalgia series of webinars. So yeah, that's really it. So I would say that today is a functionally flared day. I'm spending a lot of time in bed, but I'm also trying to be somewhat productive, and I haven't really exerted myself majorly physically, but I'm doing a lot of like online work, which requires a little bit more mental focus and clarity. And so those are the type of things that I've been working on today. One of the things that I just saw of course, always on the Facebook page pretty much daily, or several times a day, I should say, many times a day. And I just I kind of respond to comments as quick as possible when people comment on different posts, inspirational posts on Living with Fibromyalgia Facebook page. And someone said, kind of how long do flares last? And that's just like the last thing I remember seeing right before I decided to jump online here. And, flares can last anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to a few months. One of my most intense flares in a really, really bad time for me was in 2012 and 13, and the flare started in September of 2012 and pretty much lasted until maybe 8 months before I was really able to kind of get myself back. Let me quickly plug in my laptop here. I'm just going to pause the video so I can plug in my laptop so that we don't lose power. So yeah, flares can last. It just depends. It depends on many factors. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing better and feel myself in a flare, and then it kind of subsides or goes down a little bit, and then it kind of just sometimes it can linger for a while, and you just I call that when you're able to exist and kind of get the most basic and most important things done each day, kind of when we're functionally flared. So sometimes I am able to go to work and get through work, and then I get home and I crash because I have just enough energy to get through work. And I see that we actually have a viewer who's joined, and so I want to pull up a chat here. I don't know if I can see who is viewing, but I'm gonna send a message here. Hi, viewer. How are you? I don't know if they can interact with me here. Let me try to see if I can enable the QA feature here. It's just Google Hangouts is so cool. It's like so many different features. And it says this feature is disabled. Of course. Let's see if I can control that. Hopefully my volume is higher. It hasn't been too low this whole episode. But what I do want to do is I want to share one of the books that I'm reading now. So it's really kind of like a back to basics moment. Where did we go? Where did we go? Okay, here we are. So I'm going to turn off my video while I get my screen kind of pulled up here. But I want to share a little bit of information with you that's not just me rambling on. But so I want to kind of share the book that I'm currently reading. It's kind of like probably one of the books I've read several books on fibromyalgia, and I probably should have read this book back when I was first diagnosed around 2000, or when I was kind of figuring out what was going on in 2009. Though that's really back when my symptoms really, I noticed that something was just not right with me physically. But this book, it's written by Dean Mundell and Patty Wright, and it's called Living with Fibromyalgia, of course, which is the name of my Facebook page and the name of many books, actually. Let me just pull up here on Amazon. Living with Fibromyalgia. And it's 4 steps to manage pain and lead a fulfilling life. So Living with Fibromyalgia, 4 steps to manage pain and lead a fulfilling life. Let me see if I can pull this book up. Here it is. And it's really just like I would say that it's one of the most simple and easy to follow and filled with, it's taken me so long to read this book. I'm an avid reader, and usually I love to read several books each month, but just lately, like I said, with work, between school and kind of all of the great, amazing things I have going on in the gluten-free chef blog world, reading has kind of lowered on my list of priorities. But I'm trying to get through this book, and it provides a clear 4-step plan to overcoming fibromyalgia. So let me share the screen with everyone now. Start the screen share. And so this is the book that I'm reading. It is on Amazon. You can, I actually bought it from my local library, but it's Living with Fibromyalgia, 4 Steps to Manage Pain and Lead a Fulfilling Life. And what I like about it is that it's a really straightforward, simple, um, but honest look at kind of fibromyalgia, what it is, and really less about what it is and more about kind of what you should start doing mentally, emotionally, physically when you get diagnosed. And it says it's a clear 4-step plan to overcoming fibromyalgia. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it is it's honest. I think that's one of the things that I like most about it. Um, it's honest, but it's also very positive, I'll say. Um, Let me get the screen share back up here. Um, it's a very positive look at fibromyalgia and kind of helping you kind of go through from that initial diagnosis. And I'm kind of on Google or Amazon.com here, just going through the book. So I really recommend it for anybody, no matter how long you've had fibromyalgia, because I think sometimes kind of going back to basics and getting reminded of some of the strategies that you may not even realize you're doing, or that they have an actual official name for them, kind of written in a way for people who are new to it. But if you're not new, I think it's really helpful for me. So one of the sections that I like most about it, and I'm just going to kind of pull it up here on the side. It kind of talks about, so I'm in chapter 3, and it's kind of like the step 1. So the first 2 chapters kind of go into the different types of kind of, I guess, factors that I'm drawing a blank. I'm so sorry. The chapters 1 and 2 are kind of talking about the possible causes of fibromyalgia, the scientific evidence, but not it's not written in a scientific medical journal type of way. It has big spacing, and the words are the font sizes are pretty big. But kind of talking about what fibromyalgia is. And chapter 3 kind of goes into the actual 4 steps and how they say you should kind of go about with helping yourself manage and stabilizing your life with fibromyalgia. So step 1 is assessing your reactions to fibromyalgia, and it kind of goes through kind of the 5-step process. So usually there's a denial phase, the denial on the part of the loved one, super normalizing, and this is the part that I never even looked at it like this, but this is something that I struggle with. I used to struggle a lot with it. Less now, but it still doesn't look perfect every day. But it says, and I'll just kind of read a little bit here. It says, fibromyalgia may not strike you suddenly, stopping you in your tracks. You may have noticed symptoms accumulating as time goes by. Have you tried to carry on as though you are not ill? Have you defied the illness by overcompensating, using every ounce of energy you have? Have you turned on the afterburners to prove to yourself and to onlookers that fibromyalgia cannot deter you? If so, you are responding with a supernatural or supernormal reaction, which is when you refuse to make adjustments for fibromyalgia and let it slow you down. But then it kind of goes into kind of what that super normalizing is, and when we kind of have a tendency to, when we feel really good, we push ourselves. That might be for many days or weeks at a time until you finally hit a wall and you crash, and then you go into this like huge flare moment and you can't do anything. And so that kind of like makes you spiral into a sadness, a depressed like state, and then you repeat the cycle over and over again. And so basically what this chapter or this section is helping you to appreciate that super normalizing or is really a mismanagement of the illness. And it says you may experience a pattern of alternating collapses and recoveries before you go like fury until you collapse physically and mentally and are forced to rest and recover. Um, and then so if you're in the practice of doing this, which is something that I used to do a lot, it only worsens your pain, it increases your fatigue, it increases your feelings of despair, and then you just kind of get into this negative, vicious cycle of pushing, crashing, pushing, crashing, and it just becomes really unhealthy. Um, Reaction five is guilt. When I have to cancel things or cancel my schedule or important events or whatever it might be, that feeling of guilt that you feel like you're letting someone down or just you have to call into work, and you start to feel, as that happens more and more, you start to feel guilty, and sometimes there's no one who's making you feel guilty other than yourself. um, this section, it says the culture in the United States is intolerant of people who do not carry out their obligations or pull their share of the load. Blame is dished out rapidly and liberally for slacking off. So, especially if you're someone like me who is a type A personality who kind of have this perfectionist mentality, you kind of give everything your all and you give 150%. And then when you're not able to give 150%, or when you find yourself sitting down more often and resting more often, you start to feel this sense of self you feel not happy about yourself. You feel insecure, and it makes you feel, or I should speak for myself, a devastation. Sometimes you have to switch jobs or not work for a time, be on disability. You might have been the sole provider or the primary breadwinner in your household, and then you get fibromyalgia, and now you have to really rely on other people to get you different places, rely on people financially, rely on people just in general, and that guilt sometimes is again a catalyst for increased pain and just increased depression. And so it's really unhealthy to kind of have these feelings of guilt. And like I said, I have many strategies now just over the years and working with a cognitive behavior therapist and kind of really telling myself that I don't have control over my symptoms always, and that there's no rhyme or reason to the pain or when a flare happens, and just trying to go with the flow of life. And when I can do, and when I can't, try not to do that. Um, but like I said, it doesn't look perfect every day, and sometimes I do feel guilty when I have to call and reschedule something or call and cancel something. And sometimes I deliberate canceling something for hours. Even like a week or 2 weeks ago, I called to work on a Friday, and it took me probably 2 hours just to get my talk myself into calling in. And I ended up waiting really close to it was actually the time for me to be at work, just because I was almost paralyzed from guilt. It really is. It goes back to being guilty, feeling guilty that it was the first time that I've called in since school started, and I just felt like I would be letting the team down, letting everyone down. And I try not to have these feelings, but like I said, I'd be lying. I wouldn't be being honest if I wasn't honest with you and said that it's a struggle sometimes. And then I think, sometimes you feel like people are judging you and judging your work ethic and judging you as a person, as opposed to not understanding that you have a disability even though they can't see it. And so all of these factors kind of go into play with kind of how we react. you know um Damaging our self-worth is reaction number four. It says, perhaps formerly you were active, productive, outgoing, reliable, diligent, attentive, and emotionally steady. New traits such as pain, fatigue, forgetfulness, breathlessness, and mood swings that arrive can be demeaning and can demean our feelings of worthiness. It says, has fibro damaged your social identity? You might feel inferior because of your lessened ability to be involved in social activities. And sometimes I feel like this. Sometimes I feel like all I do is lay in the bed on the weekends and I don't do anything. I don't do the normal things that people my age do. Um, and so that can sometimes, well, most of the time, lead you to feeling very depressed, and then the depression leads to more pain and more fatigue and more anxiety, and then that paralyzes you. And so it's just a vicious cycle. And it's always my aim to take one day at a time, to not beat myself down about what I can't do. On the days that I'm able to that I'm physically stronger and keep my commitments, I try to keep them, because I do know there will be a time, maybe tomorrow, maybe later in that day, when I'm going to have to take something off of my list of priorities, because of the vacillating nature of fibromyalgia, and because um, your symptoms feel different sometimes at several different parts of the day. You might get up feeling really good, and then 2 hours later, after taking a shower and eating breakfast, you might feel exhausted, and you just can't figure out why. That's the nature of fibromyalgia. That's the frustrating part of it. And I just try to live in the moment and not get too worried about the next day. Um, but I will say, even just this week, I teach classes here in my local town. I teach gluten-free cooking classes, and I had a class after school on Thursday night. So Thursday was a really long day for me. I hadn't slept um, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. I really didn't sleep at all. Of course, sleeplessness is very common. And even though I take medications to help me with my sleep, sometimes my body is just in this heightened state of restlessness, and I just cannot fall asleep no matter what I've taken. So I had been up all day Thursday, and as I was preparing for the class Wednesday, I was feeling feelings of anxiety, because I knew that I also had an event or a class scheduled to teach today. Um, as I was going through my mind, I was thinking, like, am I going to be physically able for me to teach this class Saturday? Will it behoove me to push my body and keep this class and teach it? And I made the decision, probably Wednesday night, I think it was Wednesday night, that I was going to cancel the course, and I did. And again, I deliberated for that for about 3 hours on Wednesday, to let because other people had canceled, and I had went from like 10 people registered to maybe 3. And I said, do I want to put forth all of this energy to put together this class, to get ready, to travel, to set up for 3 people, knowing that I already am in a mild flare, knowing that I have this class to teach on Thursday, knowing that I have something to do on Sunday? Do I want to push myself Saturday, and then really, is what I knew, if I taught the class today, it would really impact my next week. So again, you're constantly in these states of like trying to live in the present, but still trying to think about the future and all the things that you have to do tomorrow, the next day. And sometimes you kind of feel like you're just a living checklist, just thinking about what the next task is you have to do, and will you be able to sustain it or physically be up to it. In this case, I kind of felt like thinking ahead was actually ideal for me, and made a decision Wednesday to cancel it. And when I did, I felt this like feeling of weight come off of me, like literally the burden of the class on Saturday, because I typically know how I'm going to feel on Saturday, because I work through the week. The burden just lifted, and I felt so much better because I had canceled the activity on Saturday. So those of you who are like me and who live with this, you get it. You know this feeling, and just that alone, this mental anguish, the mental processing, the thinking, and plotting, it's exhausting. Um, so like I said, I try to be as positive as possible. I try to live in the moment. I try to do when I can, and when I can't, don't, and not allow myself to feel any guilt about it, because really what it boils down to is that no one can make you feel guilty. If So anyone can only make you feel guilty if you allow them to do that. So it's kind of really changing our perception, changing how we look at our illness, not look at ourselves as being inferior, but look at it almost as there's another being or person attached to us now. This illness is another entity within us. that you just don't always have control over. But what we do have control over are our attitude. I have control over how much I exert myself, how much I rest, how much I listen to the symptoms of my body. And so, um, yeah, that's what it is. Um, so the book Living with Fibromyalgia, you can get it online, or if you're not quite sure you want to buy it, I would really recommend um, checking it out of your public library. It's 4 steps to manage pain and lead a fulfilling life. I think that no matter where you are in your fibro journey, you gain a lot from it. But I think right now I'm getting extremely fatigued. Um, Even talking is every little thing that we do is um, it takes effort. Everything that we do takes effort. But what I want to do is show you my kind of how you can contact me. Of course, you can visit me on Facebook, which I have my Facebook page up here, the Living with Fibromyalgia Facebook page, and you can kind of see my announcement that I'm live here. So check me out on Facebook there. You can also email livingwithfibro85@gmail.com. Any questions or comments or thoughts, whether it be about management, how I manage some things, or just a thought you have. There's so much in the media now about opioids and pain management, and the government really trying to have more oversight over pain management because for some reason there's a stigma attached to people who require pain medication to live some type of to live with a quality of life. Taking a medication regularly does not make you like a user of drugs or someone who abuses medication. There's a negative stigma that I just don't like regarding pain medication and pain management in general. But that's a whole nother, that's actually a webinar topic. So I will save that rant for a webinar. As you can see here, the new cover photo for the site is this beautiful rainbow that my brother took yesterday. We had like double rainbow spottings, and it was just so symbolic for me because I just feel like, at the end of every storm is a rainbow, and we just never can give up. That's really what it's all about. You fall down, you lay down, but you never fall out the race of just trying to live your most positive and fulfilling life as possible. So those are the ways you can contact me. You can also learn more about my journey on my blog, the glutenfreechefblog.com. There's also the Gluten Free Chef Facebook page. You can find out about kind of all of what I do in the Gluten Free Chef world as someone who lives with celiac disease. And I'll pull up the Facebook page here, the Gluten Free Chef blog by Calvin Eaton. You can email me about gluten-free living at asktheglutenfreechef@gmail.com. Again, there's also the podcast, the Gluten Free Chef, or Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast. And I'm going to try to bring that up here for everyone, which you can find on iTunes or on SoundCloud. Ask the Gluten Free Chef. Season 2 just started a week ago, and actually next Friday will be the second episode of the season. And again, like I mentioned on the outset, Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast is the first or the second and fourth Friday of each month. So here I am, the Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast page on SoundCloud here. Episode 2 here is featuring the lovely Hannah Crane, who is a guest blogger for the Huffington Post and also another fellow celiac. And the great thing about season 2 of Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast is that each episode will have a co-host. So it won't just be me talking the whole time, which is really cool. So there's that Ask the Gluten Free Chef podcast and Ask the Gluten Free Chef at gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter under the hashtag or under the handle glutenfreechef5, hashtag Ask the Gluten Free Chef. So I think I am going to sign us out now. Um, Thanks everyone who supports and who comments on the Living with Fibromyalgia page, and remember to continue to stay triumphant and to never give up. Um, there's that. It was nice checking in with all of you, and the goal again is so this coming Friday, I will plan to have a webinar up for all of you. If it's not live, then I'm going to try to pre-record it on Thursday at least, so that can have a really nice presentation for everyone. So yeah, wherever you are in the world, continue to stay triumphant and to never give up. So here it is, Calvin signing out, living with fibromyalgia. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye.